Hello and welcome to this episode of the Huron Chamber Connect podcast, brought to you by the Huron Chamber of Commerce. My name is Colin Carmichael. I'm the Executive Director of the Huron Chamber of Commerce and the host of the podcast. And I am very pleased to welcome as my guest this week, Hayley Bettles, who is the owner of Small Town Paralegal in Clinton. Hello, Hayley. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Colin. Thank you for having me. Sorry.
Go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell the viewers and listeners a little bit about Hayley and a little bit about Small Town Paralegal.
Yeah, thank you. So my name is Hayley Bettles. I originally grew up in Stratford, and then moved here with my family 3 years ago, I think. So we live in Clinton as well. I opened up Small Town Paralegal in 2020, June 2020, at the beginning of COVID. It was a crazy shift. My maternity leave had just ended. And I knew I wanted to do this. And it was kind of the perfect time because everything was switching to virtually. So I got to open my office completely virtually and adapt to how everyone else was adapting. So that was really cool. I have three children, young ones, 6, 4, and 1.5. I'm very busy running a business with kids, but I love every second of it. I started my business so that I could be more present with my kids. So right now, obviously, I don't work at the same kind of capacity as I will in 5 or 10 years, but you do it now and run it so that in 5 or 10 years, you have that client base to have that full-time work. And that's why I love doing what I do. So I opened as a virtual only office in 2020, ran it virtually for 3 years. And then I opened my first office front in Clinton in February 2023, I believe. And now I'm coming on 2.5 years. I am a sole proprietor and I ran it that way all by myself. And then in May of this year, I brought on my first employee and it's going wonderful. Danielle handles provincial offenses and she's actually started doing some summary criminal convictions, which is great because we've added a new area of law now to our practice. And I do small claims court, so which as of October 1st has upped the limit. So now you can sue anybody for $50,000 or less in small claims. And this is a huge victory. Yeah, because before the limit was $35,000. So if the amount that you were asking for was above $35,000, most people would lower it so that it was cheaper. Obviously, it's a lot cheaper to go in small claims than it is Superior Court. And so now the limit is $50,000, which is great because it's taking away that backlog from Superior Court, but it's giving it a more expeditious process than small claims. I also do landlord tenant board. Those are my two main areas. Yeah.
So that's probably a good segue to talk about the paralegal profession in general. I think it's probably not well understood, and how it differs from lawyers or how it differs, and so maybe just talk a bit about the paralegal profession in general, and then your practice in particular, because I know you focus on a few particular areas of law as opposed to kind of being the be all and end all, I guess. But anyway, share with us what paralegals do and what Small Town Paralegal does.
Yeah, so paralegals used to work not licensed by any governing body. So they were just kind of like this. It was the wild, wild west. They could do things. They could represent in some places. I think back then it depended on the judge. It depended on the day. It depended on the person, I think, whether or not you could represent in court. So essentially in 2008, the Law Society of Ontario, which regulates lawyers, also began to regulate paralegals. So we have the same legal requirements as lawyers. Essentially, we are like a branch of a lawyer. So I can represent people in court. I can do all the things that lawyers can do, however, in a certain areas of law. So if you become a lawyer and you get called to the bar and you pass and you become a lawyer, you can do any area of law. Obviously, you're not going to. You're going to still have a couple areas. However, as a paralegal, we have certain areas that we can choose from that we get to practice. So to get in, I went to Fanshawe and I did a 4-year university program first. And so for Fanshawe, you have to either have 4 years experience in a law office or 4 years of university. And then it's a 1-year full program. I believe it went up a bit now, but it used to be start in September and finish in August. And then there was a 40-hour, no, not 40, a full month placement. Now it's 2 months that they've changed it to. You write a licensing exam. I believe it's 7 or 9 hours. It's quite a big exam.
Wow.
You break it into 2 chunks. Yeah, it's I don't know how long the bar is, but it's very similar in that. So the qualifications and the things that we have to go through are very similar. They're just obviously shortened a little bit. Law school is 2 full years and then a year of articling. We're 1 full year and then 2 months of placement. And then you write your exam. And then if you pass and everything's good with the Law Society, you become licensed, and then that's when you choose your areas of law. So we can work in all of the tribunals. So Human Rights Tribunal, Landlord Tenant, WSIB, WSIAT. We can do employment law. We can do some immigration law. We're notary publics and commissions. There's a large list. And then right now, the first class just graduated a couple months ago, but they have just started to open family law to paralegals because it's such a needed service. Most lawyers aren't taking on family law cases anymore because they're at capacity, and they obviously charge a lot more than us. So they charge about double what we do, which is another reason why paralegals are important, because we're a more affordable option. If you get a traffic ticket or you're suing someone for under $50,000, you're going to spend well more than that hiring a lawyer to do it, which is still an option. But for
Right.
some people, that budget's not there. So one of the nice things is you can self-represent in the areas that we provide representation in, or you can hire someone. And so they're just in the process of giving us family law, but it will be a condensed version. So I have one more class left. I actually started it last year. I used the company Starter Plus grant. I went through that
Hmm.
program and used that to pay for school, which was really great because now I'm growing my business. I think we're going to write in February our test. And then I should be, if all goes well, by March or April, I should be licensed to provide some representation in family law. And I believe with direction from the Law Society, the hope is that in 3 to 5 years, they will slowly open up a bit more of what we can do. I think they just want to test the grounds and see how
Sure.
it's going. But that will be such a valuable asset to families because families live in this weird where either they can afford a lawyer or they go into super debt getting a lawyer in a family law matter, or they get legal aid, right? And so there's a whole group of people in the middle who
There's a
can't
gap
afford
there.
it.
Yeah.
Yes. And so the hope is that we bridge that gap and provide that affordable representation because there's such a large amount of people that have to self-represent because they don't make too much, they don't make too little for legal aid, but they
Right.
don't make enough for a lawyer. So
Right.
I'm excited that hopefully in the new year, if everything goes well, I'll be able to offer that
Yeah.
as well, which will
And
be great.
yeah, and you don't want, I mean, in that situation, you don't want families, making decisions around family law based on what they can afford, right? I mean, it's you want to have that full breadth of options um, uh, for representation. So, tell us a little bit about, so you're going to give a good overview of the paralegal profession, small town paralegal, your business. What areas do you focus on? What do you spend most of your time doing? You talked about your Danielle a little bit, what she does, but what areas do you find take up most of your time these days?
Yeah, so before Danielle started, I did also offer provincial offenses, but since she started, I've taken that off. I think I only did about 5% of that. Every year we have to do a report, so I have to like percentage what areas I practice in, so that's how I know. I would say 60% is and always has been landlord tenant. Predominantly landlords. I do represent some tenants. However, it's such a high cost. And in most cases, legal aid is available for tenants depending on their income. So if a tenant calls me, I always suggest that they call legal aid first to see if they qualify because you're going to pay me quite a bit. And if you're going to get it for free, it's going to save you financially, obviously. A lot of it is landlord tenant board. So non-payment of rent, damages to the property, evictions for any kind of reason. And the majority of my work is at the landlord tenant board, whereas some of it is also in like negotiations with tenants before the landlord tenant board. So to save the backlog and the time and all of the stuff of going to the landlord tenant board, sometimes we're able to resolve the matters between the landlords and tenants outside of court, which is beneficial. It doesn't always happen that way, and that's obviously why the landlord tenant board is there. And when I started, the backlog was about a year to two, depending on the application and how long, yes, you were waiting. Because when
Wow.
COVID hit, they actually took 4 or 5 months off because everything used to be in person. So if you had a matter in all of Huron County, for the most part, you went to Goderich Court once a month. And so you waited for that, right? When they switched to a virtual platform, it was all of Ontario. And then they also switched to an online filing thing. So there was a big congestion in all of that. I will say that the timelines have decreased substantially. So we're looking at about 4 to 6 months for a non-payment of rent hearing. I say 6 to 12 months for other landlord applications. Tenant applications are still about 6 months to a year, maybe a bit more depending, but it has substantially decreased. And the switch to virtual for me has been great because before, if I had a landlord tenant board hearing in London, I could have been there all day and I couldn't
Mhm.
represent anybody else. I couldn't answer emails. I couldn't work at all. Whereas now, it's usually morning blocks and afternoon blocks. So I have the availability to be here and be present for my client. But while I'm waiting, I can do other work or I can do other things. And then in the afternoon, I can be somewhere else if I need to be in a different courtroom. And I really like that. And it saves clients money on travel time because before
Mm.
you're paying to travel and mileage and time and sitting around waiting all day at the London courthouse or whatever it is. So that has been wonderful. The rest,
And
40%. Oh,
to,
sorry.
sorry, just to go back to your earlier point,
Yeah.
I'm sure it also helps with the flexibility for your family as well, and being able to manage that as well.
Absolutely. I can drop off all of my kids at all of their places and I can still be in my office and logged into court for 9 a.m. And I could not have done that if I had to drive to London or
For sure.
Kitchener or somewhere else. So it makes that really great. And then small claims court, I do about 40% of my work in small claims, and that was until October 1st suing anybody or being sued under $35,000. Now it's up to $50,000. So there's a lot of personal suing, you loaned me this money or I sold you this vehicle and it's bad and for any different reason. But a large portion of it is businesses. So business to business or a business being sued by someone else because they didn't think that the work was done properly, or the businesses having to sue clients for unpaid bills. And I would say that's a large portion of what goes on in small claims court is like commercial and business work. And so there's many avenues of small claims court. It really tries to settle things before you get to a hearing because it can be very expensive. And the small claims court works really hard on trying to eliminate the need to go to a hearing and to work on it with people beforehand. And that's where hiring someone can be beneficial because we can work with the other side, usually a paralegal or if they're self-represented, to try to settle it outside of the court, which saves both parties a lot of money and a lot of time.
So, as I said before, I think the paralegal profession is probably not well understood, and that's probably fair because it's undergone a lot of changes and is still evolving, and yeah, as a regulated profession is still relatively new. So, in terms of myth busting, I guess what are some common misconceptions that you come across as a paralegal, that folks perhaps have misunderstandings about, or that you're able to, things you're able to do that people don't realize, and that kind of thing.
So I think the first one and the most question I get asked, I would say not so much anymore, but when I first started was, "Oh, you're like Rachel Zane in Suits," which is more, yes, I got that a lot. I don't get it as much anymore, but
It's been a few
because
years since
absolutely,
Suits was
but
a thing, but anyway.
yeah, I was licensed in 2018, so I feel like back then it was still a little bit more new. She wasn't quite in the royal yet and doing all of those things. Um, so in America and almost everywhere else in the world, a paralegal is essentially a law clerk.
Right.
Ontario and BC are the only places that regulate us and see us as more of like a legal representative, right? So that I think is the biggest myth. And in some cases, paralegals work in law offices as a clerk position, but I run my own firm. I don't have a lawyer ahead of me. I am all on my own. I go to court, I file documents, everything in the areas that I prepare or that I work in. Another myth would be that we can't represent you in court. So people think that they just come to us for the filing, which is the same thing as, a law clerk. And we can. So I appear in court all the time. I just have to, classify myself as a paralegal. That's definitely a big one. Another myth is that you can represent yourself, and you absolutely can. However, there's many benefits to hiring someone in negotiation, in settlement, in knowing the forms. I know the LTB is a big one. Landlords and tenants will both file themselves firsthand, and then usually you get to a hearing. If one thing is wrong on the application, you've waited months, and at the beginning of COVID, sometimes years, and it got dismissed, and you had to start again. And this happened a lot with N12 applications, which is an eviction for the person or the family member to move in. And so they would expect that they would move in, their family member would move in, they'd get to the hearing, it would get dismissed, and then they would have to start again, and then they would retain us. And so it's sometimes easier to call that representative or get retained at the beginning and save yourself those years and money waiting for that application and to do it properly the first time. So I think that that's a big one too.
Yeah, well, that brings up a recurring theme in conversations I have all the time, in the podcast, but also just in my day to day, and that is for business owners in particular, to do the hard things first, right? And be, it's whatever it is that you went into business for. If you're a business owner, that thing is easy. or you wouldn't be doing it, right? And so it comes very easily, and you can do that kind of in your sleep. Hopefully not, depending on the on the business, but all that other stuff, whether it's finances or HR or, and in this case, the legal stuff, that is scary because it's not your area of expertise, and it's that thing that sits there on the to-do list, and you're like, no, I'm gonna go do this. I'm gonna go do some fun social media stuff instead, or whatever it is, that they and then that's what ends up. One of those things is what ends up kind of biting you in the end, is that scary thing that you didn't want to spend the money on to get the expertise, right? And so again, going back to HR, going back to the number of people who run a business for years without any professional help in bookkeeping or accounting, and then end up in all kinds of trouble with CRA or whatever. And then again, they're spending more on an accountant to get them out of that trouble than it would have cost them to stay out of it, right? And so I think your situation is similar, right? In these disputes where investing a little bit up front to ensure that you're protected in the top end of these processes, rather than in a panic calling up Small Town Paralegal and help me out of this jam, and that's going to end up costing more in the long run and have larger issues. Does that resonate? Does that sound right to you at all?
Absolutely. I would say, so we work with commercial leases, and if you have a business and you have a storefront and you're thinking of leasing, we do that with businesses, and that's a good place to do that first. And I find it's important to bring the lease to us to review before you get 2 years in and then the changes get made. But I think the biggest thing is when they're getting sued or when they need to sue someone, because a lot of businesses, I would say like contractors and rental companies and stuff, start off in a small town, especially, everything is verbal and a handshake, and you trust that everybody's going to be good. And I would say 9 times out of 10, someone comes to me and says, this person didn't pay their $30,000 bill. And for a small business, that's a lot of money. I mean, even $5,000 is a lot of money for a small business, right? And so here I am helping them with their claim that they're filing. But then also it's like, oh, while we're at it, can you help me make a contract? Can you help me do this? And absolutely, we can do it at that time. However, if we had been able to do that at the beginning, make a valid contract, or something for contractors a lot is they make a contract with the client, they come in and start doing the work, and then the client wants to change things, which happens almost every single time. And the quote is already the way it is. And then it's a verbal written agreement. And then when it comes to court, it becomes a he said, she said. And one big thing we're doing with contractors and those kind of businesses right now is making a change of order invoice or a change of order quote. And they stay in their trucks, or if they're having employees, they stay there. And basically when the client comes up to them and goes, hey, I want to change this, this, and this, they're like, okay, hold on a second. Let me get this out. And they're both going to write it down, and they're both going to write the price, and they're both going to sign and date it. And that way, when the time comes, there's no dispute over that. And that I find is the biggest thing, is that you don't realize that you need the legal help or any of the other help until it's too late. And you could have avoided that whole cost of going to court or settling or even being out that money, because sometimes you don't recover those costs, right? With just coming to see us at the beginning. And I know it's super scary because you don't know what's going to cost to do legal, or you don't know what it's going to cost to hire a bookkeeper. Bookkeeper. But we offer a free 30-minute consultation to all of our clients for that exact reason, because we want you to come to us and we want you to ask the questions so that we can discuss if we're the right fit for you. And we can't provide you with a quote because it's just not something we can do, because there's too many things dependent on time. But we can give you like a price idea on what you're expecting for. Because for me, like if I'm calling someone to do work, I want to know whether it's going to cost me $0 to $1,000 or if it's going to cost me $5,000 to $10,000, because that makes a big difference on whether I'm going to employ your services right now or I'm going to employ your services in 6 months once I've gotten income. So we tell people that it doesn't hurt to call us first or email us and ask the questions, and then we can either guide you through it or decide whether to do it later or not.
Yeah. And I think it's important that businesses, particularly, small businesses, sole proprietors like yourself, and, look at those costs, those professional services costs, not as bare expenses, but as an investment in the business, in the future success of the business, right? You're leaning on the expertise of others, who deserve to be paid for that expertise, but you're doing that to protect the future of the business. And so it is an investment that has a payoff down the line, even though it's perhaps intangible, and it's one of those. It's kind of like insurance, right? If you never need it, so if you have really strong contracts and never end up in small claims court, that's the upside,
Yeah.
not the cost. So let's shift gears just a little bit because I mentioned I made a joke about social media a couple minutes ago, and part of that's because I know that you are social media is actually part of your business, part of your strategy in terms of promoting the business, helping people in Huron County know that you're here because there aren't many in Huron County. Is that right? Is it only or two or something?
There's there's one in Exeter, the Legal Link, and I believe there's one in the Wingham area. Stratford has a couple, but there's
Yeah.
not many of us. We're few and far between. Absolutely.
Yeah. So talk to me a little bit about social media,
Yeah.
how you use social media, and you're somewhat Insta famous, I guess. Is that what the kids say? I don't even know.
I
I'm embarrassing
uh
myself now, but
no,
yeah.
I don't know any of the slang words, so I can't help with
No,
that.
we're too busy working, right?
Yeah, right. So when I started my business in June 2020, I was looking up online for other paralegal firms and social media and getting the word out there because as a small town and like as a sole proprietor, that's kind of one of the biggest ways is for people to find you is on social media and online right now, right? You're not going to open up the yellow pages and find my business. And some people maybe still do, but a lot of the people go
Are there still
online.
yellow pages? I'm not even sure.
I think we get them in Clinton once a year, I
Yeah,
think.
okay.
Um, and there was no one. And what there was, it was not a lot of information. And the Law Society and the ethics, and it's a very much like gray area, I would say. Like you can post on social media, but you can't give direct legal advice, but you can't do this and you can do that. And it kind of creates this like, barrier. That's like as a paralegal, I can't say that I specialize in anything. There's like a lawyers can pay and be a specialized in something, and they're trying to give that to paralegals, but that's a no-no to say. So I started social media when I first started my business. And before I worked at a gym, and they really taught me a lot about social media and content planning and what to post and when to post. So I had a lot of education on that. And then I just kind of went with it. So I use content scheduling platforms and I schedule usually a couple months in advance. And then I found this digital Main Street grant when I opened up my business as a brick and mortar. And I used all of that for branding photos and to hire a social media marketing agency. And they offered this like 1 month thing. So they went through your business, they kind of helped you refine it, figure out your colors and your brand and everything. And then they gave you a whole package. And then they actually scheduled your content for an entire month, showed you the platform to use it with, and then like left you with it to run with it. And that was huge because they gave me all the tools, all the tips, everything to post on my social media and then kind of keep going. And I've been doing that ever since. So that was in March 2023, I think. And I've been
Hmm.
posting pretty consistently with nice branding photos. Before it was just kind of random photos and I tried the real thing and it was cool. But since then it's been cohesive and it's been great. And then we got more branding photos this year when Danielle started, and we've just kind of flowed those into it because you want the same vibe and the same feeling, and that's been great. And then yeah, I logged into my class. It started in September, and everybody introduces themselves, and I'm like, I'm Hayley Bettles. I run Small Town Paralegal, and like three people went off mute and was like, "Oh, I know you from Instagram. Your social media is so great." And it was such like a flattering moment because some of my posts get like 5 likes, and I have like just under 1,000 followers, which is fine. It's very cool, but it was nice to know that like other paralegals are taking advantage of this and watching it. And I want to educate other paralegals as important and like show people that paralegals are out there, but I also want to educate the public. So every year there's a cap or a percentage that you can raise your rent for in Ontario legally. And that gets set out much before because need to give 90 days notice, and the percentage change is easy to find. But every year I make sure that I post what the percentage is. And can't 100% remember, but I'm pretty sure it's not 2.1%, but it changes every year. But that's important information for a landlord to know. And so I think that a landlord sees that and goes, "Oh, I like this page because I'm a landlord. I need to learn more." And then they follow me and I can give them tips and tricks and help them learn along the way, which I think is so important because yes, the free 30-minute consultation, I can give you lots of knowledge and lots of information. But if you want to know more things later on, I hope that you go to my social media and see, "Oh yeah, I needed to know that
Hmm.
about this." Or sometimes we post like crazy laws. Like I think in Petrolia, it's illegal to whistle on a Sunday. And like these are laws that were made who knows when, but or bylaws, sorry, but they
Yeah.
haven't been taken out yet. So, like in one town in Ontario, it's against the bylaw to paint your door purple or something like that. And so it's like these crazy things that it's just like you open up your social media on a Friday morning and you laugh because that's
Yeah.
there. And I just think that that's so
Yeah.
cool.
One thing I've noticed about your social media is that you're not shy about sharing about your family life as well, right? And you're not, within reason, of course, but because I assume I'll that's because that's part of who you are, and your business. I always struggle a bit with this concept of work life balance, as if they're two separate worlds that exist separately, and you move back and forth from one to the other. Because I've always found that as a struggle, that you never fully leave your family at home when you go to work, and you never fully leave your work at the office when you come home, right? And so
Mhm.
I've always talked about it as work-life blending, and making sure that the proportions are right, but you can't turn one off and turn the other on. And I see that through your social media as well, when you do mention your kids, you do mention the drop-offs, and getting them to school and getting into the office, and those kinds of things, which I think humanizes the business a bit, right? I mean, I assume that's part of the point.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny. So my hours are very short, right? 9:30 to 2:30. And then I take one day off a week because I need to do all the mom things. And most people are very understanding. And you get the few, like I remember I had a voicemail one time and they were kind of laughing and scoffing at my hours and were like, this is ridiculous. And to me, that person just doesn't align with my business. Like, yes, if I need to meet someone at 4 p.m., I will figure it out. But for the most part, 99% of my work is done between 9:30 and 2:30 because that's the time that my brain is on work. And yes, you're right. I'm thinking about my children, but I'm here to be here.
Mhm.
If I make a meeting with you at 5 o'clock, my head is not going to be in it and I'm not going to be doing the same amount of work. And so that's something that I struggled with at the beginning was work-life balance because my office was in the basement. So it was nothing for me to go down with my kids or to do anything. And then you're never 100% present into one thing. And so I've worked really hard to set those boundaries. And in 5 years, my office will probably be open much more and I will have much more capacity. And that's great. But I also want to show the humanization of, this is why I'm only open these hours because I have to do school drop off and I have to pick them up at 3 o'clock and I have to be there. And it's funny, when we were in school back in 2018, social media was there, but it wasn't that big. And we had a police officer come in and they were just one of the first police forces to like humanize policing on social media.
Mhm.
So like they were posting themselves and they were posting their families and like the downfalls and the all the good stuff. Um, and I thought about it back then and I was like, I don't want my kids' pictures up there every single day. Absolutely not. But they need to know why I am who I am and that I'm not just, a stiff paralegal that only wants to, stick it to them. Like,
Right.
I'm still a mom and I'm still a person and I still have other things going on in my life. And I think it does help humanize that, like, we are just normal people.
And I think particularly in our rural, Huron County community, and in Clinton, it's helpful to have that human connection, and to understand that oh, that's the Haley Bettles whose kids go to, or whatever, that there's a connection there. So before we go, I wanted to touch briefly on the BIA. Now, you
Yeah.
were this is your second appearance on the Chamber Connect podcast in just a few short weeks, because you were part of our group chat, I guess, with the BIAs across the county. And so we don't need to do a deep dive into the Central Huron BIA, but you are the chair of the BIA, and in addition to your running your business and running your family, you also run the BIA. So maybe just talk just very briefly about that experience in terms of
Yeah.
how the BIA helps your business, and other businesses downtown, and then how. What that brings to you, and to downtown Clinton.
Yeah. So it's really funny. I didn't even know what a BIA was. I was probably a business for 2 weeks and someone was like, "Oh, we really need you at these meetings. We don't have enough people." I'm like, "Sure, great." I'm not very good at saying no to things. So here I am. And then 3 months later, I'm the chair of this thing that I have no idea what I'm doing. And it was absolute chaos, but it is such a great way to meet people. So when we moved to Clinton, me and my husband are very sociable people. We didn't really know anybody, right? And I think I know more people than some of the people that have lived here their whole lives. And being a business and joining the BIA and like getting out there is such a great way to do that. And I love that I'm a service-based business. So like obviously things like ladies' night and all those things don't benefit my business as much. But I love that I can help and I can organize these things to help our other businesses because it's getting people downtown. It's getting our community growing. And like, this is the future for me and my children. And I think that that's so important that people realize that there's so much to offer in Clinton. Like, if I have a birthday party or I have a t-shirt gift or anything, I don't leave this town to buy it all. I go to any of our wonderful stores. I actually usually try to go to all of them, as many of them as I can. And I think that that's so important. And then it takes away from those businesses that, or it doesn't take away from those businesses, sorry. Like on ladies' night, no, I bet you historically a retail business owner has been the chair. So they're trying to organize ladies' night and get their store ready. And it's like for me, I'm not here on Thursday. So I get to spend that whole day helping the businesses how they need it and organizing everything. And then I get to watch all these wonderful people come to our downtown and see how wonderful it is and how beautiful it is. And then they come back
Yeah.
again. And it makes it so rewarding seeing our town benefiting from all of the things that we can use, to bring us all together, which is really
Mhm.
cool.
Yeah, yeah, it's and that that applies to all of the BIAs in Huron County, and the chamber is really proud to work with all of our BIAs and find ways that the chamber can support the BIAs and the BIAs can support the chamber in what we do, and it's a really positive relationship there with those organizations. So with that, I think we'll wrap up, and I want to thank you very much for being a guest on the podcast, and I'm not sure when we'll have someone else do the podcast twice in a month, but I
I think I win the award for that.
so.
In all fairness, we were supposed to do the BIA 1 month ago, but scheduling that many people at once proved to
Yeah,
be.
it's a little like herding cats. But yeah, so but it was great to be able to talk with your you and your BIA colleagues about what's coming up in the holiday season and all the exciting things that happen throughout Huron County. And anyway, it's been great learning more about you and about your business and about the paralegal profession. And we're so happy to have Small Town Paralegal as part of the Huron Chamber of Commerce, and to have your expertise available for our members as well. And we're always happy to share your share your name and your number with folks who are not in legal trouble necessarily, but who might benefit from some advice from someone in your profession. And I always have that kind of in my back pocket, so that when I'm having those conversations, and you know who you should talk to, you should maybe give Hayley a call. But anyway, so
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you so much for having me. It's been wonderful, and I hope that those listening will even just learn a little bit more about the legal field or paralegals. And I think that's the most valuable thing for sure.
yeah. Well, I look forward to bumping into you sometime soon at a chamber event or some other BIA event or something. It never seems to go very long without bumping into chamber members and podcast guests. So
And we're looking forward to the gala. There's a whole group of us girls going together. So, girl
awesome.
business owners, yeah, it's going to be wonderful.
Yeah, yeah. So I might as well pitch it since you brought it up. Is November 21st is the Spirit of Success Awards Gala, and our annual opportunity to celebrate the best that Huron County has to offer, and
And it's in Clinton this year. I mean,
it
I'm winning on
is.
that.
Yes, we yeah, Libra Hall in Clinton. Tickets on sale now, as they say. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to pitch that, Haley. That's
Yeah,
uh,
yeah. I'm very excited. That was such a fun opportunity last year. Sorry.
no, go
Just to
ahead.
see the other business owners. And like, I was new to this and I'm new to, like, I know the businesses in Clinton, but I don't know any of the businesses elsewhere. And we actually got to sit with, I believe it's the Marshall family. They own,
Hmm.
is that right? And me and my husband got to learn so much. They own the Park House, they own the Beach Street, and now they just got a brewery. And it was
Yeah,
really incredible to sit and chat with other businesses and like learn more and like how he started in business and how Goddard was such a short-term thing and they've loved it. And it was really cool to just meet other business owners and be alike. And it was really awesome.
good. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to seeing you there, and looking forward to seeing all of our viewers and listeners there as well. So thanks again, Hayley. It's been lovely chatting with you, and we'll see you again soon.
Okay, thank you so much. Have a great day.